5 years without Dragon Ball Super. Sure, it was a roller coaster all along, which kinda missed the point more than thrice, but when it met its peak, it caused streaming sites to crash. All things considered, we were definitely having fun. Ever since that date, 2 movies have been released and Toyotaro's manga still hangs on, despite its pretty inconsistent storytelling, but there hasn't been any plausible info about the anime making a comeback in the future. We merely got assumptions like a web series among their plans, but at the moment, Toei seems uninterested in producing a new Dragon Ball series, thus explaining why they stuck to sporadic productions. Then what happened to the protagonists of Super? Where did its main animators go afterwards? Let's begin with its long-standing character designer, the veteran Tadayoshi Yamamuro, who stepped down in favor of Naohiro Shintani and Chikashi Kubota for their respective movies, but actually never left the show completely, as he's still working on the Super Dragon Ball Heroes adaptation, is a supervisor and also storyboard artist, with predictable results even though his performance doesn't come off as exhausted as in the 2010s. In fact, given its more casual schedule, it's not surprising to observe a quite rock-steady production in every way, especially when it comes to movements. He's not alone here, as the 2 chief supervisors from Super, Takeo Ide and Miyako Tsuji, provide their correcting role within. Yet Miss Tsuji also got to prove her tremendous skills as an animator, with her cuts standing out among the rest because they essentially moved, while also confirming her artistic progress after Dragon Ball Super Broly. I wish she could work on something bigger, she totally deserves it. Speaking of the Heroes anime, it caught several familiar names, who do appear rather frequently, such as Osamu Ishikawa, Hiroyuki Itai, Hiro Takani, and Hitoshi Inaba. Not a supervisor unlike the aforementioned names, but has been on the show for 30 years, so he absolutely deserves an honorable mention. Conversely, the likes of Takashi Nishizawa, Shuichiro Manabe, Shuntaro Mura, Hisashi Kagawa, and Yukihiro Kitano provided key animation occasionally or only during the early episodes, so they cannot be considered regulars. Speaking of Kitano, he was a regular supervisor of Digimon PowerPoint Adventure in 2020 and of the subsequent Digimon Ghost Game series in 2021, in which he performed rather competently. Their production may not be hugely efficient, but is still serviceable not to devour the animators. The recent Digimon series included other former Super staff like Yoshitaka Yashima in his capacity as sole supervisor and storyboard artist, Masahiro Naoi, Eugene Eisen and Noel Año Nuevo from Toei Philippines, and a few absolute powerhouses, Atsushi Nikaido and Naoki Tate, covering both roles of mere key animators and supervisors, or even as a chief supervisor in Nikaido's case, demonstrating his valuable skills as an artist. And even Ryo Onishi, who needs no descriptions. Animation-wise, is unrivaled. As for Tate's presence in Digimon, it must have definitely not made One Piece fans very happy, since they wish he made a comeback after the end of Super, specifically if it meant making an already stellar Wano arc even more stellar. Nevertheless, one of Tate's former Seigasha partners got to return as a regular, of course Masahiro Shimanuki, whom the fandom knows extremely well for better and for worse, as his trademark stiffness is barely a secret, but compared to the far more explosive newer generation, his approach might pop up as old-fashioned, but remains quite nostalgic. And you know how much I hate to use this term. Among explosive names, Toyomsa has been working on One Piece since the battle between Luffy and Katakuri, and it hasn't taken him a long time to belong to the top tier, as well as to be promoted as a supervisor. He is as productive as ever, realizing hundreds of cuts in a restricted amount of time, just like the good old days. He's supervising a half of the upcoming episode, which is featuring another familiar name in the directional department, Ryota Nakamura, as well as another explosive animator, Toei's climax man, Naotoshi Shida. In this instance, the better question would be, where didn't he go? Since it's not important which anime he's in, Digimon, One Piece or Dragon Quest, but more like the way he delivers his creations, which by now can be considered actual journeys. The man certainly knows how to hype up any kind of story and never fails to captivate the audience's interest. Interestingly enough, Shida's former Last House partner Tetsuya Saiki came back as a regular during the Whole Cake Island arc, but it's quite hard to make an assumption about how its work looks currently. As for the remaining names, Yuichi Karasawa, Ken Otsuka, Yuji Akamada and sporadically Manabe partook in 2020's Dragon Quest Dino Daiboken, whose finale included a few big names in industry like Takeshi Morita, Otsuka and Shida themselves, and also Karasawa as a supervisor and another Karasawa providing directional performance, Kazuya Karasawa, another well-known name who worked on Super and on the Broly film as well. Lastly, Kenji Myuma returned as a regular in the Precure franchise, on the specific in the Delicious Party series, in which we do encounter further acquaintances like Joy Kalangian and Francis Kaneda from Toy Philippines, and its former character designer Akira Nagami, who needs no introductions. As for the Tournament of Power wonder Yuya Takahashi, he's one of the two chief supervisors of the third season of War Trigger in 2021, whereas the future Trunks arc savior Futoshi Gashide occasionally worked on the Netflix anime Yasuke and on Utawari Rumono Mask of Truth, both in the 2020s. So unknown toy productions, unlike most of the super animators. Overall, it's truly been a serious diaspora, isn't it? It definitely debunks all those questions raised back in 2015, whether Toei only hired rookies and left the quote-unquote heavy artillery unemployed.
It's time to stop! It's time to stop, okay?
I'm secure there must be some extra info I could have gathered, but I hope this will officially end all of those far-fetched discussions over the infamous episode 5 Chronicles, because it's not about burying all those evident production issues, but it's more about highlighting the objectively numerous talents Dragon Ball showcased for 3 straight years. While the anime returning in the future remains a massive question point, it's undeniable a 35-year-old series now functions as a father who's observing his own children grow and go separate ways. Oh, and one more thing. Fushi TV, please bring chocolate totems back.